Hello, testing. Hope everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, just pop something into the chat, and I'll get back to you. But firstly, thanks and welcome to the class. Really appreciate you all being here. My name's Darren from Watercolour Mentor, and I'm going to be going through a few different things today. So basically, I'll be talking a bit about pen sketching. A lot of this class is going to be to do with pen sketching and just how the different techniques I use, and a little bit of watercolor, how to paint in some nice sort of complementary colors on buildings, and also some shadows. So I'll just go through the chats quickly. Hi, Patricia. Thanks for coming along. Marcella, and I've got Jen from Houston, Texas. Welcome, Jen. Indy Barnes from Ontario, Canada. Welcome, Indy. Got Patricia, we've already mentioned, yeah. Yonkers, from Yonkers, New York. And Roseanne Pereira from Whitehorse, Yukon. Thanks, everyone, for joining. And on YouTube, we've got a couple as well. We've got Maria, I think that's how you pronounce your name. I don't want to butcher people's names as usual. And Yvonne. And we've also got Helen Leung from Toronto, Canada. Welcome. Try to make this a better time for you guys, because I know a lot of people watching are from the States, and back here in Melbourne, it's pretty much the opposite time. When it's night, it's kind of daytime for you guys, and it's a nice morning for us over here. It's a very beautiful day. Hope you can sort of go outside later, have a bit of a stroll around. It's a very nice day. So just going to give it a few more seconds to let people join, and we'll get started. But I guess just for a quick intro, I'll show you some of the work in my sketchbook, some of the pen and wash sketches that I've been doing recently. So this is one of my sketchbooks, and I love working out of sketchbooks. The great thing about them is, yeah, they just allow you to just look at it less seriously when you start getting into planning out a painting or a drawing, something like that. You don't feel too intimidated just opening up and trying something new. I think that's where you learn most of your techniques, just through practice and trial and error. And I've kind of now just started mostly working from sketchbooks, even for some more planned out paintings and illustrations. So it's just a habit that I've developed over time. I've got tons of sketchbooks, and I really recommend you to get one if you are starting out, or even like a intermediate or advanced sort of watercolorist. It really helps you to just refine your techniques. It doesn't have to be an expensive one. You can pick up just a real basic sketchbook from the shop. It's mainly just practicing your drawing and understanding how the watercolors mix and react to paper. Okay, gonna have a quick check of the chats. Kathleen, welcome, Kathleen, and Trisha, beautiful stuff. Thank you. Here are a couple more that I've done. So these are some sketches of Venice. I think this is Burano. So it's one of the islands of Venice, and I think they do a lot of glass blowing, and they've got a glass blowing sort of tradition over there. But I really love the houses and just the vibrant colors, and I thought it's really good, especially when you've got water and these blue areas in the sky and the water. When you have buildings which are a little bit warmer and brighter looking, with these yellows, oranges, and reds, it really forms a nice contrast. Something that I use in a lot of my pen and wash drawings and paintings. Here's a bunch of others that I'll just quickly flick through so that you have an idea of the style that I kind of work in. And a lot of it is pretty quick. I do work quite quickly and draw quite quickly. With this one, I'll go a bit slower just to show you my process, kind of explain to you how I do it as well. Okay, Sui Chin Ong. Hi, Darren. I'm really new to line and wash. Thanks for joining, Sui. And that's fine. I think line and wash is a really great way to to start out learning watercolors and drawings. And in fact, that's how I actually got into doing it in the first place. Because for most people, I think you've picked up a pencil, you've picked up a pen, you know, maybe just sort of scribbled something down. And I think it's a really great way to get started. Painting is, you know, people think it's very different from drawing, but actually there's a lot of similarities. There's just a different repertoire of techniques, and you can cover a larger area with more subtle sort of gradations, things like clouds and stuff with watercolor. But essentially, you're also using a lot of those drawing techniques in watercolors. So when you're drawing with a pen, definitely rest assured that you're also improving your watercolor paintings. Okay, Liz Roski. Hi from New Brunswick, East Coast, Canada. Thanks, Liz, for joining. And just go through a few more here. Now, the one we're going to be painting, it's going to be drawing. It's going to be something similar to this scene over here. I've used, this was based off a different reference photo, but the reference photo that I'm going to be using for this one has got a lot of shadows. I love using photos that have shadows, areas of contrast in it. Just really brings out the light in the painting. So often, even if I have a reference photo that doesn't have much shadows, light, that kind of thing, I like to put in more shadows in there because it really makes a painting look a lot more interesting. Hey, Ves Ling, hi from Singapore. Hi, Ves. Thanks for joining. Charlotte Cook from Wichita, Kansas, USA. Welcome, Charlotte. I'd like to pretend I know where these places are. I would love to go to the States one day, and I was actually planning to go to LA before all this craziness happened, and hopefully I get to go over there someday. It seems like a really awesome place to explore, and I also would love to see the Grand Canyon. That's the big things. Yvette from Trinidad, thanks Yvette for joining and welcome. Must be a more reasonable time for you now over in Trinidad. Okay, I think we've got pretty much most people in now, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to be changing the contrast as well on the brightness, because there is a bit of glare from the light. Okay. Welcome Samantha from Indiana, USA, and we've got Lindsay from Melbourne. Fantastic. Keeps us busy during lockdown, hey? And yeah, I think I did the last one also when we had a lockdown too. So, what do you know? So what I'm going to go through first, I've got a list of things, kind of just written down some of the techniques I just want to go through with everyone. And firstly, I'll just talk a bit about materials. So the pens that I'm going to be using, it's often it's a common question I get. I use these 3 Uniball pens, and they're ballpoint ink pens. So they come in different sizes. This is a 0.38, a 0.5, and a 0.7 ballpoint ink pen. And yeah, I use these. You can pick these up from your office store or stationery store nearby. They're pretty easy to get. The main thing you just want to make sure is that the ink is permanent, and it will say waterproof or permanent on the side. That's really important for this type of this style of illustration that I'm going to be doing, because when you go over with the watercolors, you don't want those lines to just disappear into all the watercolors. So that's something, you can use water soluble inks as well for drawing, and it has a different effect, but for this type of demonstration, that's what you're gonna need. I do have other pens as well. I won't really be talking about them too much. I've also got these pigment liners. They're similar to these on the right, except they have a felt tip, and they just have I guess when you're drawing, you can get less defined lines and a little bit more variety in the type of lines. So a bit more skipping in areas, and they also come in a variety of different nibs. So that's the main, I guess, set of pens that I use. I've also got my watercolor set over here. So, I've got a whole bunch of colors, but really I only use about 5 or 6 of them So I'll just go through generally, you can check in the materials as well. I've got a bunch of yellows here that I've listed: a Naples yellow, yellow ochre. I've got cerulean blue, cobalt blue, ultramarine blue. I've got a bit of purple and some earth tones here. So these are really good for, getting in some areas of the houses and things like that. Also a bit of red. Okay. So I'll go through just a few little sketching tips for you. And it's just more of an introduction to sketching. I know some of you are new to pen and wash. Now, holding your pen, sometimes people ask about that. Where do you hold your pen? It seems like it's a straightforward thing to know, but when you hold the pen closer to the end, what happens is that you can get looser sort of lines. So when I'm drawing maybe like a larger shape, say like for a scene, I might be doing like an area of the ground, and I just want to get in a large, a long sort of line here on the ground like that. I'll hold the pen down the back, and it just allows me to use more of that motion from my arm. It's better, in my opinion, to draw these larger shapes with your whole arm. I know some people tend to use their fingers a lot when they start drawing, but using your arm, especially with landscapes and larger shapes, it just creates more looser looking and more natural looking shapes. I do hold the pen closer down as well to do small details. So, if I'm drawing maybe a person, a little figure or something sort of walking here, like that, just allows you to get a bit more details. So if I'm holding it down the back and trying to do a person, it's there you go. I've already stuffed it up. So just helps you to kind of get in a little bit more detail. But I tend to find a little trade-off as well. Hold the pen in the center, and that just gives you kind of balance. But yeah, there's a few little tips there. What I'm gonna go through is I might just go through a little bit of hatching and cross hatching as well. So it's something that I use in bits and pieces of my drawings. So I use very simple sort of hatching techniques here. They're not anything too complicated, especially for beginners. So hatching is essentially a process where you're drawing lines in a particular direction to imply either the curvature of a shape, or to add a little bit of tone or a little bit of darkness to the area. So if I want these buildings to just look a little bit more colored in and maybe have a light source coming in from the right, what I'm going to do is I'll just draw a bunch of lines coming into those buildings in the background, sort of cutting around the figures here. And that gives the impression of some shadow. You can even leave it like that as well if you want to imply like a bit of light sort of crossing over the side of that building there, and then you can leave that side there just to show a bit of extra light. So that's the main reason and the main purpose and how I use it. Even if you're drawing something like a circle, sphere, and you just want to imply the general curvature of it, or that 3D sort of nature, you can go like this and sort of create some little sort of marks on the surface to just make it look a bit more spherical. So it isn't technically hatching, but it's a similar sort of process. So that's a little bit to do with hatching. Cross hatching is essentially going in the opposite direction of your initial hatching to further darken an area. So you can go and just do this sort of thing like that, and that will look a little bit darker than that there. I also use this technique to draw in windows and some more complicated windows and things, where you can use this pattern and then color in little squares and things in here as well. So sort of form a little guide. So that's just a little bit of detail there, a few tips here on hatching. I will probably get into the demonstration in a couple minutes. Last thing I really want to mention is pen nibs. Now, people often ask about do I need a small pen nib, larger pen nib? What are they used for? So I've got three here. I mentioned the sizes. They're very similar, actually. There's a 0.38, 0.5, and 0.7 millimeter pen nib. And essentially, if you're wanting to draw a shape or something in the foreground to sort of stand out, use a pen nib that's a bit larger. What that's going to do is it's basically going to allow that shape to sort of come forwards more. Thicker lines always give the impression of being more further forward in an illustration or a drawing. So, some of these thinner lines at the back, thinner liners you can use to draw buildings or things like that, which are far off in the distance. But, like I said, with these pens that I'm using here, there really isn't that much of a difference between the nib sizes. It's only when you go down to maybe like a 0.1 nib, 0.2, you can even get 0.05 nibs, which are really tiny. And you get in small details on there. So we're going to go ahead and get started now. So give me 1 second. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. Pop them in the chats and I'll get to you. But I'll just quickly get set up. Okay. The paper that I'm using, it's 100% cotton watercolor paper. So that's going to allow you to get in a lot of these nice flat washes, and also be able to get in some gradations and things in the sky as well. So, okay, so I'm going to use a bit of paper and move that across. Let's bring up the reference photo as well and go ahead and get started. So I know some of you have already kind of transferred the image on, but I'm going to show you how I draw it on and just my process, how I separate out these buildings and kind of measure them with my eyes. So what we're going to do, I'm not going to put in a border. I'm just going to go in essentially and pop in the area where I want the ground to be. So there's like a footpath in the foreground here, and we've got these little steps that go up and a brick wall, kind of retaining wall or something like that in the front of these houses. So what I like to do is I turn the pen a little bit on its side, and that way it kind of just grazes the paper. I've mentioned this before, but when we're not going in with a pencil sketch initially, still need to make sure that you have a few little indicator lines to it's essentially make sure that you've got the basic measurements in. So, when we're doing, there's 4 houses here, maybe a 5th in the corner. We don't want to get to the point where we're doing the 3rd house and then there's not enough space to put the 4th one. So some of these little guiding lines really help. Lucy B. Art, will we be able to view this later? I'm going to have to leave before it's over. Yep, this is going to be recorded and popped up later, so don't worry. So I'm just going to go and popping in a little bit of this area in the front. And very light sort of line like that, kind of goes all the way to the edge of the paper. But that just marks out where the steps sort of begin. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and look at some of the most obvious shapes. And here it's mainly these houses. So I want to pop in around about when they finish off, touch the sky. So over here, we've got a bit of some of these steps, and then we've got a little bit of this retaining wall or something like that here. Just gonna get that line and just draw in a little bit of a line coming across there, just to indicate the retaining wall. Patricia, just question from Patricia, what was the largest size nib again, please? So the largest size nib that I'm using here is a 0.7 millimeter, but you can really get by just using the 0.5. In fact, for most of my pen and wash sketches, I forget to use the others and I end up just using this. But yeah, the 0.7 just helps you get some of those shapes in the front that you want to sort of pop out and come forwards more. So we're at this point where we've got a couple of lines here, one for just an area separating the footpath, and we've got an area here for the retaining walls. Now what I'm going to do is just measure out around about where the houses finish. We want to leave enough sky in there as well. So I'm going to probably finish it off about here. You know, they may turn out a little bit taller than the actual reference themselves, but that's okay. Just drawing that line all across. So we know where the buildings stop and where they sort of finish, round about where they finish. And there's actually a bit of grass, bits and pieces in here. And I'm just going to start popping in the side of this one, just a little mark like that, and carry this down like this. A little, and you can barely see what I'm doing here in the paper. I'm just scratching in some little marks. If you can't see, just let me know. I'll see if I can sort of bump the contrast up or not, but it's very hard to, even for myself, it's just trying to essentially just get in a few little scratches in there. And we've got 4 houses, and a little one here on the side. It's kind of covered by some trees as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to separate this into 2. Make it simple, just cut it straight in half, maybe with a little bit left off in the corner there. So I'm just going to draw a line coming down the center like that. And notice how I'm starting with really simple shapes. And you need to have these simple shapes in here because these are going to form, I guess, a guideline as to where everything else is located relatively. So if you're putting a window in, then if you've separated out the building into these sections, you'll know, okay, that window falls within this section here and there. So now looking at the height of these buildings as well, one thing we need to pop in, and there's actually a little bit of some shrubs and things coming up here. So it sort of starts off around about here, the bottom of the building, a little bit further up the retaining wall. So what we're going to do, we're going to separate these buildings around about around the halfway point, maybe a little bit further up from halfway. If we look where it finishes from where all this sort of grass in the front of the yard, sort of about, it's about halfway through. So look and separate that out. So just a line through the middle. That. And we'll do the same thing also for this other one. These are the 2 and a bit, 2.5 houses coming down to the back there. Fantastic. And what I also like to do, these buildings aren't really separated out, but I just like to put a little mark through the center like this, just to indicate, an imaginary separation, so I don't draw a window that's too far over to that side or whatever. And we'll go through, separate these buildings out here as well. So we've got essentially all 4 buildings like this. Very light lines. And then we've got that last townhouse on that right-hand side. You can barely see it sort of coming out. So next thing I want to do is pop in the areas of the roofs. So we'll go through and we'll just draw a line where this area of the roof finishes. So it's almost, if you look at this top section that we've separated out, that can be divided almost into a third just for the roof. Welcome 𝗪𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗥𝗘𝗦 from Bangladesh. Thanks for joining. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this in. And, also when you're drawing, don't feel like you have to make the lines perfectly straight and that you have to get the line in all at once. So you can sort of draw that line in and then restate it. So if you notice, a lot of these lines I'm drawing, I tend to draw them in a few little portions. I'm also painting underneath the camera, which makes it a little bit difficult for me to get a proper overhead view and a bit of leverage. So it just helps especially, and it also gives the drawing a bit of style. Welcome, Beth. Temple Holmes from Arizona in the US. Love this group. Fantastic. Thanks for joining us, and great to have you as part of the group as well. Always love seeing everyone's beautiful paintings and creations in the group. And message from 𝗪𝗔𝗧𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗔. Hi, what are you drawing? And I'm Surab from India. So at the moment, I'm just doing I'm drawing the reference picture on the top left. So just some little markers and indications. I'm going to the roof now. Okay, so there we go. Just pop in that top of the rooftop on that side. And I'm going to just draw in another line underneath here as well. This, because there's actually a kind of like a gutter or something like that on the roof. It's little bits. And when you have lines that are, they're a little bit wobbly, that's fine, because at the end of the day, if you make everything completely straight, and there's a lot of artists that do this as well, it has a certain style to it, but when you're starting out, I think it just makes it a lot more fun when you don't have to worry too much about getting everything perfect. So there we go, bits of that. Bottom parts, and we'll start. Let me think what we can do next. I think we'll go straight into the windows for this house. A lot of this is going to be just drawing, and we'll mark out the top of the windows like this. Yeah, that's the bottom like this here, and I'm just going to go draw in the 3 windows there. And as you can already see, the spacing of it is determined by these little lines that you've drawn in before. So you're sort of allowing it to fit into this little space, this little plan that you've done. Urban sketching, yeah, basically. And this is really a great way. I'm doing this all from home, but you can actually go out if just in your neighborhood, just go out, sit in front of your house and draw what's in front of you with a pen and do this sort of same thing. So, I actually used to do this. I was living in Carlton over in Melbourne over here. And yeah, I used to go out on the weekends and just sit outside the museum and just draw some of the houses, some of these like interesting heritage looking houses that are really complicated. And I just wanted, to get outside. So it's actually a great way to go outside. And even if you're doing a bit of your watercolor painting, it's just popping on some colors later. So you don't, it's very sporadic and you're just learning. So yeah, there's a lot of these urban sketching clubs actually around. So pop in these little frames. Judy Lisk, hi from Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. Welcome, Judy. So these little frames of the windows, they're quite important because I'm going to leave them white. Okay, so something like that. I really don't want to be a bit faster doing this here all day. Okay, there we got a few here. The bottoms of the windows have this sort of white ledge here. So I'm just going to pop a little indication of that in. And there's a section here that kind of just sticks out. It's a kind of porch area. And I'm just going to get that in. Kind of connects almost onto this building to the side there. Okay. Section there. It comes out like that. A little bit of that perspective. And that line in like that. So that's how I'm sort of holding the pen a little bit closer down in this instance to get in some more detail, a bit more accuracy here. You've got to have a combination of kind of loose and more defined areas, I find, just You're going with the watercolors, it just helps. So this little section here at the bottom is changed into a couple of sections as well. Welcome, Carol. Welcome, Carol, from Ohio. Nice to have you here. So there's actually a section here where these little chairs, these little white chairs are sitting on, and it goes about a third of the way up the building. So I'm just going to draw in a little line coming in like that. You know, there's actually so much detail in here, and part of the challenges actually of these drawings is just knowing when to stop and essentially just getting in the basic sections and shapes in here. Okay, and have a look at this part. There's a bit of it's like a kind of, what it is, just something like that. And then we've got, area here. It's like a fence coming up, and I think this is like a staircase or something. I can't really see what it is, but it doesn't matter all too much. I'm just gonna pretend it probably is. If I zoom into it, it probably is a staircase, but not a big deal. We can pop that in there, and also while we're at it, let's put in a little shape of a shrub or a bush or something like that here. Just scribble that in, a large shape. What's this? It's like a real estate sign. Houses for sale. So let's pop in these windows. So this window starts directly under this other one here. So pop in that side of that building a bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and pop in this window, and it finishes around about here. Okay. That little white ledge come down like that. Section like that. Frames of the windows there. And the bottom ledge is important too. Get in this one here. Yolanda Wong hello from Hong Kong. Thank you. Thanks for showing up and drawing and painting along with me. Hope you find this helpful. And yeah, like I was saying before, if you have questions, just drop them in the chat. Okay. And we've actually, one thing I forgot to do is just get in some of these chairs in here as well. So it's not a huge deal, but you can sort of imply bits and pieces in here that can't even really tell that they're chairs at this stage, but just something in there nice to sort of indicate what's happening. And another thing that I like to do is do a bit of coloring in, a little bit of hatching for the windows. So that one there, I'm just going to create a bit of darkness in there. You don't have to do this with pen. You can do it a little bit later, well, with the watercolors. But it creates a bit of difference, and all the windows don't look the same. This one's kind of half open, so I'll just scribble in a little bit of darkness for that one. Okay, there's a door here, so we'll just get this in. This door runs directly underneath that window, so just draw that in. The kind of this something here. There's like a little structure here. Bit of, don't know what it is. Draw that in. That kind of like goes behind that sign there. Find all these shrubs and things as well. Beth at Temple Homes, I'm so new to painting. Do all paintings start with a pen sketch or are some done with just the paintbrush. You can go either way, and it really just depends on the artist, on the style. I do find though when you're starting out, going through with a sketch, either with a pencil or with a pen, it really helps because gives you an indication of what you're gonna paint. If you just go straight in with the paintbrush, often people struggle to sort of visualize, and I do that myself. I find it very difficult to visualize and picture something without a sketch on first. So it gives you a little I guess a bit of a blueprint, and it's almost like planning. And if you have a good plan, if you have a good pencil sketch, often end up with a painting that fits your expectations. But you never know with watercolor. I've learned through a lot of trial and error that whatever you expect with watercolor, it just never really turns out that way. But that's the beauty of it. And just pop in this through the door, taking quite a while here. You can also, like I was saying, you can also swap to a smaller nib sort of pen and use that to get in some little details like this. Okay, so that's just a bit of that door. The door actually has a sort of darker frame down these edges, so just scribble in a bit of this frame. That. Okay. Mini mirror. Hi from India. Welcome, Minnie, and you're welcome, Beth. So, another thing that we can do here is, just start popping in another shrub or whatever. Just make this one a bit bigger. That. Okay. And that little technique that I was talking about before. So we basically have that kind of hatching technique. So I'll just illustrate how that's used here. So we can just draw these lines in this direction like that. Lines in the opposite direction here. That. And we can just use a pen essentially just to color in bits and pieces to make this sort of checkered sort of pattern. In here. Hard to see. Trying to do this a bit faster. Yeah, just a checkered kind of pattern to indicate whatever this is underneath here. Okay, something like that. Adds a bit of interest. Also got areas of this grass and stuff here on the porch. Just comes in, and then we've got another bush or something here as well. These are really important because we've got a light source coming from the top right. These are going to cast shadows and make things look a lot more interesting. Now I'm just going to pop in this little section here of these stairs. So they kind of start about here. I'm just going to draw some horizontal lines coming down. And the thing with making these lines a little bit lighter is that it just allows you to swap and change it around if you want to make the area a little bit larger. Just getting these stairs up. That very light sort of indicator. There's bits and pieces. I don't know what these are. I think there's a kind of fence or something in there. Also, forgot to put this in, but there is a little fence here on the porch. So I'm going to go and just indicate that. This. It's kind of lightly so that it's not overstated. Turn the pen on the side as well, and you can get in as kind of broken line. Works quite well. Up in that rooftop like this. It actually sticks out a fair bit more. It kind of comes out like almost like that on the edge. Okay. Little things like this. There's a little satellite dish here. right? And might not seem like much, but having a bit of a shadow under there will add some interest later on. So I'm going to pop that in. You know, there's trees and things coming through the back of this house as well. So I'm just going to pop in. I've actually done this one a bit too, this needs to be further out, come out like this more. And then it's sort of lines coming out like this. And you know, there's a lot of detail and things here, and I think I'll just pop in a tree. Let's just scribble in a tree here on the side, just a loose sort of shape. That joins a bit onto the house there in the background, comes in here. There are bits and pieces in the back. Don't want to create too much interest over this side. I kind of want it to fade out and to be the focus to be more in this area. So that's one of the things that you can definitely do. Section here comes in that, and continue on. Okay, I'm just having a look where this building finishes, kind of underneath that bush or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Section kind of comes up like that. Another staircase. Beginning. That. Up. That area of the house. And we'll continue on, and I'm going to be using pretty much the exact same process that I've used to draw this house in to get in everything else. This little top area here of the house, just on the roof, let's just get that in. So it's basically, simplify that down to triangle, and then at the bottom of the triangle, we've got a angle. What we need to do, actually a bit more, tiny bit more in there. So something like that. You know, also the rooftop has these little, I don't know what they are. They're these kind of tiles that just run across, indicate a little bit of that separation in between these roofs. There is a kind of, you know what this is? It's a chimney. Pop that in. Yeah. Edge. Yeah. Kind of pop like that. There. Now I'll continue this rooftop along here. Like that. And start getting in this other one. So these, I like these windows. They have this interesting sort of shade on top, and the shade starts a bit further up, so kind of around here. So 1, 2, 3, like that. And I'm going to go in and just pop that in. The bottom of the window finishes at the same point here as these other windows. So that's what I was saying before, using these other parts as a reference. That kind of comes down about halfway, section like that, there, these little frilly things. And then we've got the window underneath like this. Do the same thing for this one here. This line's completely vertical and joins on like that. Oops, forgot to do these little frilly pieces. We'll do the same thing here. Well, for this one, there we go. And we are pretty much done. And the pattern of these lines as well, I might just get them kind of running in this same direction. That. We'll just pop in these windows, the frames of the windows like that. All kind of, a lot of this stuff is under the shade. There. And bottom part window, these little ledges. Also remember to pop them in. I'd start with the ledge here. There we go. Another one there. And might add in a few little bits and pieces. This window we could color in to make it darker. Want one to look a bit different. And we'll go ahead and just do this area of the porch again. So just come up. It starts about just underneath these ledges and comes down here. This is a really interesting one. There's a really shade that just crosses. So what I'll do, just to make sure that it doesn't end up too large, and put in the area where of the porch here. There's so many things. There's so many things to draw in. It's just got to reduce it down to essentials. Yeah, it is. It's a pretty detailed sketch, Patricia. I think sort of starting off, I was initially meant to do it a lot more looser, but I often get drawn in to the details. There's a lot in here, but remember, you don't have to put it all in. Just because it's there doesn't mean it has to be drawn in there. So the main thing is that we've got an area here of, a bit of a fence. So I can just quickly pop a bit of that fence in like that. Got a pillar that comes up here. We've got a door inside here. There's areas where you might even want to make up a few things. So there's actually a window that starts up a little bit further up there actually, finishes around here. Little squares and things that could be anything here. Stuff that's just on this person's porch. And you've also got this kind of pillar that's holding up the shade as well. Oh, one thing I forgot to do is get in the actual shade. So pop that in. Okay. And with the shade, I'm going to follow this sort of contour so that it just comes across like this. Okay, and we can get in a bit of that shadow underneath as well. We just want to make it quite dark underneath there. And we've got a bit of this pillar popping in from the side, just the one that's similar to this one on the right, coming down like that. And we've also got like bits of fence and things here as well. But I'm going to go in and just pop in a little bit more, tiny bit more detail actually, maybe a shrub here. And sort of leads in, there's shrubs and all kinds of stuff. Staircase leading up to this area. Okay, so I just want to find out generally where this one finishes. So this kind of comes off. This area of this retaining wall comes off and finishes the midway of this blue building. There. That's where the other sort of bits of stairs begin. Get this in. That. Other things you can do. You can pop in like bricks in here as well. A lot of this is actually just drawing, and most of it will, most of the structure will actually come from the drawing. We'll later go through with the watercolors and essentially just pop in the shadows and everything like that afterwards. And get this bit in here. Underneath, we've also got areas of this sort of kind of checkered pattern, which I thought was quite interesting. Yeah, so I'm just going to do this other sort of, I think there's steps, really steps, going up into the building. That, some indications of that, and then we've got a wall kind of underneath, so a little bit of that checkered sort of pattern is going to help. Yeah. And also, you know, like a shrub or something here would be nice to help cast a shadow across. Okay. Right, I'm going to move along and we'll get these other two finished off. It's essentially the same sort of deal as the others, just going through, popping in a bit of this structure on top of the building here. That across, when that area up. And let me know how you're going as well. If you're struggling with the sketch or you need some tips, just let me know. Okay, we'll separate this house up, these two. So there's actually a line that just separates these out in the reference. So continue that down there. That. Okay. Take a look at what's going on. Grass here. There's a bit of this steps as well. Let's go up. And another bit of this wall, this retaining wall, the right hand side. This one slopes downwards a bit more. It's not a hill. Okay. Yeah, similar sort of thing. We'll just get in the rest of these details. We'll triangle on top here and turn that into rectangle there. We've got this area which has these kind of windows with white frames. So I can just do something like this. Color in these some little bits up the top here. Hey, Jen Villabos, do you have any tips for sketching stairs? For some reason, my stair steps don't look right. A lot of it's just observation, and like if you look at these two stairs down to the left hand side, they're kind of explain it. They're sort of as each step goes up, one is a little bit shorter than the other. So it's yeah, essentially you've got this one here that's facing almost directly to us, so you can't see that this sort of I don't know how you'd explain it, but sort of shortening as it goes up. But don't worry all too much. As long as you got some vertical lines running across, people are going to know that they're stairs. Find with a lot of this urban sketching stuff and line and wash, you're doing buildings, one of the best ways to actually learn is to just go out there and sketch stuff out in the streets and buildings that you see. And yeah, Patricia, yes, that's the word I was looking for, perspective. So you can go out actually on YouTube, a lot of different places, and just search up first point, 2 point, 3 point perspective videos that will show you a bit of theory and give you some exercises on how to do this. I think initially I did a couple of these when I was starting out, but a lot of a lot of my understanding of perspective is just from observation, looking at reference pictures, looking at how um, the angle of lines essentially, and figuring it out from there. So, but I do recommend to have a look online for some perspective drawing um, sort of videos as well that will help you, and sort of go through some basic examples as well for you. Okay, let's go ahead and pop in these windows. I feel like I'm taking quite a while here to draw this in, but again, you don't want to rush. You don't want to rush it. The painting, believe it or not, takes very little time. Most of this is just in the drawing, and if you've got a good drawing with your pen, when you go over with the watercolors, there's it's almost impossible to stuff it up. So just go in and pop in these windows. And again, I think there's an air conditioner or something like that here, so I can just oops, in a bit of that little box or something there. Yeah, separate out these windows and pop in the frames. That, and the bottom parts sort of get that as well. There. Top section, again, just going through, copying that one there on that left hand side. I feel like I can get these kind of checkered bits in a bit better than I did before, but don't worry all too much. Replicated exactly. Something like that. Got some little bits and pieces on top like that as well, and some here, a bit at the bottom here. That. Okay. Have a look. So there's another sort of area here, this porch. I'm going to draw that in. A couple of horizontal lines. Another line here. And, we're going to look at where these pillars finish. This one actually goes lower. Just down further. This one here finishes around the same sort of point. So I'm going to separate this house up and just draw a line kind of around here where these stairs finish. So got stairs finish about here, these blue stairs. Yeah. And just draw some horizontal lines like this. Okay, don't worry all too much about all those small bits and pieces in there. And then we've also got this like kind of a railing. This comes up there and finishes off around about here. These little cool lines. That. Okay, join them up over the top. That. And we've got a pillar that runs down here. There's sort of a shrub, a couple of shrubs. Yeah. We'll scribble a couple of these in. Front. But a lot of this is just grass and things here. I don't know what this is. It's a little darker section, square or something behind that shrub. And yeah, let me just get in a few little. These, it's just the railing essentially on the stairs going up, and then we've got this black sort of fence or whatever it is at the front. And you know, at this point as well, you might think you might add in a figure or something like that. It's always good before you pop in any of these details like the windows and areas of the houses, just to pop in the figures in the front, because this will essentially allow you to get it to come forwards a little bit more. So I'm thinking I might have one over this side, and a little bit, maybe we'll pop in a figure kind of walking here. I'm just going head sort of tilted a bit to the left to show that that figure is walking to the left, and bit of a scribble here for the body, and we'll get in the legs, just one leg kind of coming forwards like that, one leg going towards the back there, and get an arm or something here, maybe an arm coming out this side as well. This will be good, so we can get in some shadow running across the ground. You know, I might even have another person here. It's just kind of walking in the opposite direction, and a little bit of that, and get another one here. I love adding figures in; just brings a bit of life to the scene. There we go, something like that. Just a bag or something here. Okay. Coming back to this part here, we've got this area kind of separated out. We've got the top windows in. We'll start with these bottom windows. And, you know, I haven't actually left, I think, just enough space in here, but like I said, it doesn't need to be perfect. Get that frame in, that white frame. So important. We're going to be painting around that frame later. Patricia, where are the women? Yeah, my figures all look like men because I'm actually not so good at drawing female figures, believe it or not. So I tend to shy away from them. But you know what? I'm gonna draw one in just for you. So I'm gonna give it a try. Let's have a go. But what female figures? What do they? You know, get into a bit of trouble here. Okay, so maybe this one could be wearing like a dress or something like that, and with hair, obviously, you know, I like to put it in later in watercolors. So you can have people with short hair, people with longer hair. So a lot of that stuff you can pop in later as well. This could be some kind of. Okay, here we go. Just put a triangle of hair and a purse, Patricia. It's a really good idea. I'll take your tip on that. Purse. Jeez, let's give this a go. Okay, there we go. I think that's a purse. I can get away with that. All right. And new one. I'm gonna pop in one of the pillars here, coming down. And look, you know, the biggest thing is if you make a mistake or if you draw a line in the wrong place, don't go back in there and try to scribble it out, because that's just going to make it a lot more obvious. It's kind of here. I made a mistake here. I was meant to do the shade before putting in this window here. But if I'd gone in there and just sort of scribbled out that door or window or whatever it is and then drawn the shade on it, would just look a lot more obvious that I'd made an error. So just go over the top of it and it all blends in and looks fine in the end. Thanks, Patricia. there's one thing I haven't actually tried before is to do a pen and wash portrait, because I can do portraits in watercolor, but I've just never tried pen and wash. So I might give it a go, make a video on that sometime soon. And yeah, look, I'm just going through and popping in a bit of darkness for these windows, shading in a little bit of that area here. I think I'm really spending too much time on this drawing, so I want to finish this off and show you guys how to paint this before you go today. So just pop in this last window here. Lucy B. Art, have to go. Have a good weekend, everyone. Thanks, Lucy, for joining, and I hope to see you next time. You'll be able to watch the rest of this online as well. And yeah, if you have questions, even after the video, just send a message, drop a message or a comment or something like that, and I'll get back to you. Thank you. And these frames, I keep harping on about these frames. I know it's I don't keep harping on about it, but they're important because they sort of give that extra dimension of detail to these windows. But we're not putting much of that detail in with the pen, with the paint, sorry. A lot of it's going to come in through the pen. All the shadows we're going to get in later with the watercolors. Okay, so there's a fence here, and we don't even need to get it all in, but you know, I'm switching to a 0.7 liner, and look at that, just vertical lines coming through this area. That's a fence. Okay. Connect them up a bit like that. It's amazing how little you need to really put in there to get an indication of detail. So last one down the back here before we actually start painting. Just separate this area. So we've got this last one. I love these windows with these kind of shades on them. Very interesting. Get the just an opportunity to get some shadows in. Look at those shadows just coming across the window. These are kind of these frilly things here. Might put in a bit of a side part like that. There. There. And we've got the window finishes off around the bottom right here. That. There. Here. Another kind of square shape in there. Could be an air conditioner, who knows. Not important. The frames, window frames. Pop them in. And I might get in some little vertical lines here. The shades. Notice how they kind of skip areas of the paper. One, because I'm drawing really quickly and I'm turning the pen on the edge, so it just kind of clips the top of it. Okay, we've got this section here. Okay, here's this other shade. So we're going to do it properly this time. Starts off around here underneath that window. Notice how I reference everything I'm drawing in relation to the shapes that are surrounding it. That's why it's so important, the first step here that I told you guys on getting in the basic shape of the building, making sure the heights and the width are more or less accurate, because everything else is going to be based on that. And you know, there are some people who can draw fantastically and they don't need to put in all these structure and things like that. I find I need to, though. It helps out a lot. Even then, it's not perfect. You see, there's actually a distance here between the shade and the windows. I can just extend that further, bring that up a bit more. There is a tree here. I want to get this in because it comes forward. So I'm going to scribble in a bit of detail here for a branch or so, thing like that. I'm using that larger sort of 0.7 pen. Okay. get in some little bits and pieces like that. It's just going to be tree, just branches and larger sort of clumps of leaves and things. I know they're not really present in the actual reference photo, but I want to cover up that house here on that right hand side, this tree, and having a shape that's kind of larger and blockier here to contrast with all this detail. I think you have to give a bit of relief to your eyes in areas of the painting illustration. Okay, comes in here at the side. And the way I draw branches, sort of make one come out and then just splinters off into a couple of other small branches like that. Okay. And I'm trying to do this first, trying to do this tree first, so then I can draw the windows and things to kind of cut around it. So essentially this larger tree shape will come forwards. And having areas that overlap, the figures overlapping with the houses, the fence overlapping with the back area here, it gives that sense of depth in your drawing. Okay, I'm going to remind myself I've got to do this shade first, because the shade's in front of the windows. So always draw the stuff in front first. Firstly, I'll just get out a little indication here about where these other stairs finish off. And I'll say it kind of goes down here and just finishes like that. Yeah. And we'll get in a bit of this pillar or something like that, whatever it is. There. Square shape thing. There. I like this pillar. And this one. It's how it should kind of be a bit more spontaneous, deliberate. And yeah, this one actually comes down and kind of goes through this person's head. It's in the back. It's kind of in the back. And I'm adding in a bit of an edge as well to it. Yeah, just to imply some perspective. And here we go. So we've got in all this, got in the shade, got in the pillars, and now we just got to get in the windows kind of behind it. So this one starts around about here, comes down here. There is a shrub or something here. Just scribble that in. Oops. Finishes right here. Okay. This pillar goes down a bit further. And you can just keep on going forever and ever with the drawing. I can sort of sit here and draw for hours and try to get everything in, but that's not the point of this. Okay, great. I really like this window. If you look in the reference photo, there is a shadow running across this window behind the shrub here. That's super important for later. Okay, last window. And one, I think that's a door. I think it could be a door in there. It's hard to tell. It's very dark. I'll just pretend there's a door here. I mean, there's got to be a door. It's a house, right? Okay. A lot of this stuff is just going to be in the darkness anyway, so we don't have to fuss around too much. Shrub or something here. Another shrub in front here. Maybe another one here. Bits and pieces. Here there is a staircase. Well, runs down like that. Interacts with this figure here in the foreground. And it's good. Having shapes that overlap really create additional interest. Now, all this stuff here is actually, I tried to eliminate some detail by putting in that large tree shape. I'll just pop in a window here little window, and you know there might be some steps also around this sort of section here. Okay, go up, something like that. Yeah, but it all just disappears. All that detail just kind of blends in to the background in that section. We're not really too fussed about what goes on in here. We want these buildings to sort of stand out. Okay, just seeing if I've got anything else to put in here, but essentially that's it for the drawing. I mean, everything, you know, I can go through, and I think there's also a bit of this sort of section here, like this triangular sort of bit on top of the house that we can scratch in quickly. At this point, it's just emphasizing anything else, adding in bits and pieces that you want to change or detail. You know, it might pop in a few little branches or something sort of stretching out of the, you know, like that. Another sort of shape here, that. You know, I've got my 0.7 liner, and at this point I sort of can go in here and just draw out these figures a bit more. And this is what I was talking about with using a thicker sort of pen. It will draw out, it will bring forwards these particular people and objects, things like that. Fantastic. Extend out this area at the front a bit here. Just gonna put some little perspective lines on the ground. Exactly. How you want to do it essentially is you've got a straight line that just comes down here because we're looking face on to these two buildings, almost face on anyway, because you can see these stairs, there's no sort of slope and sort of them going up on an angle. So you can draw a vertical line here, and then as you go to the edges, you just flay out those lines a little bit more. Okay, increase that angle, and that's essentially it. Okay, probably go and change things up later. Hey Shannon, good evening. That's all right. You almost missed this. That's okay. If you missed the start of it, just you can rewind it later and go through it. It's all recorded. It's always nice to have some of you guys watching it. For me, it helps motivate me a lot as well. It's one of the main reasons why I actually started this watercolor group, and in the first place, it was during lockdown, and you know I wanted a way to kind of keep myself accountable and keep myself busy, really. So I feel really lucky that I have just people, you guys watching along and learning from the little tips that I have here. So I think that's about it. We could keep on going. But I think that's going to be okay. Now, if you've got a really small liner, this is 0.05 liner. Sometimes what I do is that I go through and I put in little bricks and things in the house, because actually these buildings are filled with bricks. So you draw a few in here or there, and the reason why I'm using a very, very small liner for this is because I don't want those bricks to really pop out too much. You know what I mean? It's that same concept I was telling you guys about, using a liner that has a finer nib. Just understates whatever you're drawing. So I'm not even looking at the reference picture at this stage. I'm just drawing little squares and things around. So it's just another thing you can do, okay, to add detail on. Okay, so Now this one does have bricks as well. It's sort of blue bricks. So, and don't feel like you have to always get it in straight away now as well. You can wait till the end when you finish the painting and actually go back in with the and finish it off. Okay, fantastic. So we are done with the drawing. And we're going to get into the painting. I'm just going to go check the chats to see if there's any more questions. Thanks, Angela. You're welcome. And I love doing these demonstrations, and it's also great practice for me too. So yeah, if you have questions, just drop them in. I'm always happy to answer. Angela asks, are they waterproof lines? Sorry, I missed the beginning. So yeah, these lines are basically drawn in with waterproof ink pens. So they only cost about $2. If you go down to your stationery store, I don't know if they've got this brand or not. They seem to be pretty popular. They're Uniball pens. But main thing is that just check that they have waterproof and or fade proof, waterproof and fade proof written on them. These ones that I'm using now, the ballpoint tips, but the ink is liquid. So don't get a ballpoint pen that has that sort of those big sort of more sort of viscous paint ink in there. Get these ones, because those other ones, they tend to leave indentations on the paper. It just doesn't look nice. And you can also use these ones here. They're just pigment liners. I'm a lot more drawn to these ones though. These liquid ink pens. For some reason, there's just a sense of finality when you're drawing in that line. With the other ones, you can kind of scratch in bits and pieces. You can sort of half-heartedly sketch in things. With these, you sort of draw it in, and that's it. Lines in there, and it's pretty obvious. Okay. Diane Yuko, love your tips. I love painting, but I always struggle on sketching. Thanks for this. Thanks, Diane. And I actually remember you from this must have been like a year or two ago. We were part of some other group. Yeah, some other watercolor groups. I do remember you from there. So thanks for tuning in, and glad you're enjoying the class. Carol Young, my first time, and I love watching. Fantastic. Welcome, Carol. Channeling Martinez, just to give the impression of a brick house. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. So, I can sit here, we can sit here and draw in every little brick, but I really don't want to do that. Believe it or not, I'm actually quite lazy when it comes to painting. I like to essentially get the impression of what's in there. Sometimes if you spend too much time drawing every little bit and piece in there, for me, it starts to frustrate me. And I don't have the patience to sort of sit around. I like to kind of get a kind of impression of what I feel this scene represents, and put in wherever I need for that, and leave enough for the imagination as well for the viewer. And you see a lot of some of the impressionists, and you've got guys like Turner, you've got more contemporary like Joseph 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 I met Joseph once in an event, and they're so loose with their paintings, but there's enough detail in there to show what the scene is about, but also enough looseness to make I don't know, just stimulate the brain to imagine what else is in there and see other things. Okay. And Roseanne Pereira, thanks for providing the template. You're welcome, Roseanne. Judy Liska, use a straight pen and ink, then let it dry good for a week, then use watercolor on it. Yep, that's a good good sort of process as well. I tend with these pens they dry super quick, so I can paint directly after. Patricia Stanton, my first time watching this also, but I will be following you in the future. Thanks, Patricia. Okay, time to get on with the painting, everyone. So, talk a little bit about brushes very quickly. I've got a mop brush. This is a number 2 mop brush. sizes don't really matter too much. It really just depends on the size of the paper that you're using. Paper that I'm using here is A4, so I'm choosing a mop brush that's going to allow me to get in this sky, bit of the trees, these larger shapes without sort of, so if I use this little brush and I try to paint in the sky, this is going to take me a whole year to do, and it's going to look all choppy and blotchy. So a brush that's large enough to just get in enough painting. I tend to pick a brush, the largest brush I can, to paint whatever shape it is. So if I can paint this tree with a larger brush accurately, I'll use the larger brush rather than a smaller brush. So, okay, get on with this. So number 6 round brush for some of the small detailing. I've got a number 8 round brush as well. What else I'm going to use? I tend to use flat brushes as well, so I might have a couple of these smaller flat brushes. This is a number 8 flat, number 6 flat. You know, synthetics, I use synthetics these days. They've gone a long way, and I find that they last a lot longer as well. Some of the natural hair brushes. So, nearly dipped my paintbrush into my tea. 7, a bit of a drink. Yapping for too long, losing my voice. Okay, just move the palette a bit closer so you guys can see what I'm doing. Yeah. All right, should be okay. So I'm going to pick up firstly a bit of the warmer colors. So I always tend to go with the warmer colors first, and we'll go with a bit of yellow ochre. Just mix that up here on the palette. In fact, you don't even need to go into the palette. You can just sort of pick it up straight away. And that's too, you know, that's a good color, but the brush is too big. I'm going to go over some of these other areas. So I'm just going to go and drop in this yellow, that here. And the rooftops here are really interesting. They're kind of like a bluish sort of tinge to them. But I might be wrong. I'm partially colorblind, so go through, pop in that yellow ochre, and I've also got here on the side a bit of this, what is it? It's burnt sienna. So I'm just dropping in some of that burnt sienna, a bit of that yellow. And the reason why is essentially so I can get in some variation here, a bit more interest. And notice as well, I'm cutting around these frames. That's what I was saying before, the frames, putting those white frames in is so important. Coming down here, you know, we've got these shades as well on that top, that section here. So I'm just going to cut around those. We're going to get in this whole section in one go. Yeah, just a bit of the roof is actually kind of cooler color. You know, always when using yellows, you know, I tend to accidentally mix green all the time when I start putting in bits of blue and things like that. So just be careful with that. And look, the aim here is we're not trying to get in any detail at all. We're just putting on a light wash of color. Okay, that's all we're doing. Light wash of color. And go along. You know, if some of it kind of mixes into the window, don't worry about it. Just continue on. We just want this all joining on fluidly. One sort of go there. What is that? I don't know what that is. Chair that I popped in before. Okay, bit more of that yellow here as well, and cutting around that window. It's just that mix of yellow and burnt sienna. Keep it light. That's my other tip. Don't make it too dark. I'm going to pop in this shade here with a bit of cooler color. That, and look at that. Just let that yellow mix and blend in. That these pillars as well, which I might leave some of it white there. Yeah, little bits of white in here. Remember, this is all going to be in the darkness later. Okay, so back on that yellow, I'm going to put in the yellow here as well down the bottom. Here, okay, just rework the section a little bit like that. And I'm going to pop in a bit of blue for the rooftop. So just some cerulean blue, very, 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 very light mix of that. Let's drop that in there. It's actually not that blue, but I find that having that contrast again between these warm colors of the house, got a lot of yellow in here and just a bit of blue on top, it's going to help. Fortunately, this probably might turn into almost like a greenish color because I've got some bits and pieces mixed in here. You know, I'm not keeping the colors exactly to the reference photo as well. Often you need to change things up a little bit to sort of bring out the contrasts. So just pick out a bit more, get some proper blue here. Just got so much that yellow mixed in there, it started to come through. So using another brush, let's drop that in. That's more like it, something like that. Rooftop, yeah, there. There we go. Do that roof. It's kind of the color we want. This is way too. It's just turned into a turquoisey color. But that's all right. Let it be. Little sections in between actually are kind of reddish. They just have this sort of. I know what it is. It's sort of burnt sienna or something like that. Oops. These ones are actually a lot lighter, but you can fix that up. Just lift off the paint, dry off your brush, lift that off. Remember, this all dries a lot lighter too. Okay. Let's have a look. We'll go further down here. I'll pick up some more warm colors. Drop that straight in these stairs as well. Bit of that color in for the stairs. Bit of that color in for that part there. You know, it's important, and you kind of got to work quite quickly here so that all the colors just mix together. Okay. This rooftop, let's have a think. I might pop in the bottom of it first. It's just sort of blue. It's almost like a slightly turquoisey color here. But doing this so that it blends on kind of with the yellow on the house to the left, so that it just looks like one shape. Okay. You can use sort of different kinds of blues in here as well. You don't have to use the same color all the way through. It's kind of like how I was mixing a bit of that burnt sienna through as well on that other side. Keeps things more interesting. We've got blue, we've got yellow, blue, you know, that sort of warm and cool interaction just brings out that vibrancy in, you know, that's often people look at my work and they think that it looks like very super bright and there's lots of vibrancy in it. That's the reason more my color choices and also the emphasis of shadows. Okay. Just dilute this down. And you know, one of the I also don't focus much on what color I'm using. I'm more so just looking at whether it's warm or cool. You know, actually for the top section here, I want to pop in some burnt sienna to the rooftop, because if I go blue, it's going to look, it's just going to blend in with the bottom and there's not going to be enough variation there. So a little bit of burnt sienna. What else have we got? I can use a little bit of red as well. Some warmth in here. Hold the brush at the end as well. That's what I'm doing to get in some looser sort of brush strokes. Check the chats in. And Weiss, really enjoying, but unfortunately have to get up at 0 dark 30. Okay, that's right, Anne. I'll watch the replay later. Okay, I'm going to get this house in on the right-hand side with a bit of red. Like that. Bit of red. Another thing I want to do as well, I've got some green, a little bit of this sap green that I've mixed up, and I'm going to drop that in. While this area down the bottom is still kind of damp, I'm going to drop some of that sap green in to indicate these shrubs and things here. So there's also kind of grass in the front, so using a bit of this is going to help there. And you know, I just want things to blend together nicely, all flow together. You know, bit of mixing and stuff like that is completely fine. It helps actually. Shannon Martinez, do you think black is a cool color or a warm color? I'm not exactly sure, to be honest, whether it is or what it's classified as. I don't know. I thought of it more of like a neutral color, you know, like a neutral tint where you add it into another color and it just darkens it essentially. I'm not sure. You probably have to look that one up. Okay. Just go through. Let's do this. Color in there. Yeah. What we're doing is just popping in a really light wash. I know this has gone over the 1.5 hours, but we should be done soon. I'm going to speed this up and get in the rest of the details quickly. So this part at the bottom here, I'm just going to get this all in with a bit of yellow and a bit of burnt sienna here. Cut around the figures as well. That. Yellow. And at the very base, I'm going to pop in a little bit of Naples yellow and a little bit of yellow ochre, but just a lot more watered down. Okay, something like that. And we don't have a border here, so we're just painting to the edges or wherever you feel comfortable. Something like that. Larger strokes here. We've got bits of this tree. So, you know, I've also got some other greens. I've got some emerald green. And it's kind of, I love this green. It's got a kind of opaque feel to it in areas. So, something like that. This house as well, I might just quickly get on a wash of this color. Joins on with the tree there. Comes through. This tree kind of starts overlapping with the house and things like that here. You know, I might actually see if I can just get in some more bit of darker green here at the base. Something like that. All right. Bit of wet on wet as well. Drop that in. And same thing here with this other tree here on the left-hand side. Bit of sap green here. And use that to sort of shift around the house. And mix up your own greens. Green's a convenience color. And, you know, you always find if you buy a green that's just lighter, you can mix in some blue, some ultramarine or some cobalt blue. You can pretty much get all the others. So just tend to have it because it's easier. I find with sap green as well, it's such a beautiful, vibrant green that I find so difficult to mix myself. Okay, while everything is still kind of wet here, I'm gonna go mix up a bit of cerulean blue for the sky. Okay, straight into the sky. That's too dark, way too dark. So I'm just going to add some more water, just some water into this area. Spread that out. And I like to also leave, see little bits of white and things to separate the buildings out a bit as well from the sky. But you can also just paint over them normally. That's fine. Ideally, I actually like to do the sky while the roofs are still wet, because it actually allows you to get in some blending and some wet on wet kind of in there as well. So sort of similar to what I'm doing here with the trees in areas. So just a bit like that. Okay, this bit here, these bits of the trees here, a bit of the sky, sorry, just sort of connecting on. Whoops. That. All right. Great. Last little thing I'd like to put in a bit of this blue into the windows as well. Yeah, so a little light wash of cerulean through here. Quickly get in. Don't have to do all of them, but I think definitely bits and pieces, it does help. Sort of reflecting off that blue in the sky. Oops, too dark. Really, you want a very light wash of that blue. You're talking about like a, 1/4 mixed paint, 3/4 water. Okay, a bit more. This one. Fantastic. Okay. Now the figures, we can now pop in a little bit of color, just a light wash. Might go with some blue for this figure here. A bit of blue for that figure. And I'll go with a bit of red or kind of a pinkish color. Oops. This figure here, let's kind of turn a bit into purple. And maybe a tiny bit of red, this other figure on the right. I always get, you look at the palette, it's just all over the place at the moment. Colors all over the place. A bit of red here too. Got green in the background. So a bit of red here being a complementary is going to help that. It's just going to give a bit more interest. So that's why I'm using red here in the corners, and I've got some blue here because I've got some of these warmer yellow areas. Okay, so I'm going to give this a really quick dry, and we'll pop in all the shadows. So just put the okay, so we're going to get started off and pop in the rest of the shadows. Do this quite quickly and finish this whole thing off. So we're going to mix up here in the corner a bit of neutral tint. Now, if you don't have neutral tint, just mix 3 primaries together. So mix a bit of blue, mix a bit of red, mix a bit of yellow together. The idea here is we just want to get in a dark color. Another thing I like to use, I just, for some reason, I just really like the color purple for shadows. So I tend to mix up a bit of that as well in here. So I'm just going to go ahead, pick up a bit of this purple. Now, the mixture is about 50% water, 50% paint, or maybe 60% water. So it's still pretty watery. So I'm going to go through and we're going to pop in the shadows, the most obvious shadows first. So we've got things like underneath here. We've got this bit of shade and it sort of cuts across like this underneath. And we've also got a bit of this window that's got, it's kind of half in shade like that. So drawing that bit of light sort of going across there, maybe going across here as well underneath there. Join that all up like this. And this is where that sort of crucial bit I was talking about before. You've got a bit of shadow on this window. This kind of cutting across the building. So it's a bit there. Have a look. What else should we pop in? Maybe a little bit of shadow up the top of that thing. Little bit of shadow underneath this shade. Forgotten to get the colors in for the shade. We'll I'll do them in a moment. Sort of comes off to the side like that. Further down and cuts through that window like that. That's one. Second one like this. Okay, but a last one sort of comes down here. Okay, we just leave that in. I'm going to actually just, while I can, get in a little bit of red into these shades. A bit of color here, mix through. Should have kind of gone through and done that earlier, but it's all right. A bit here as well. Okay, underneath the rooftops, there's also a little bit of darkness there, and actually lighter. It's almost like this color there. And I like to just also pop on extra shadows in some areas. So here on the top as well, we might have a bit of a shadow kind of running across like that. Little structure. We've got, again, this bit of the building. Yeah, and that's shadow running down here. Coloring around that broad sort of marks on the paper. Okay. Look what else we can do. The shadows here as well. More of an angle, a bit more like that. Down here. That's why that bit of blue is so important. Okay. Bit more, there's a bit of shadow underneath the rooftops here. So I'm just going to indicate that quickly. And, you know, on the sides of the buildings, something like that as well. Yeah. Also a little shadow, this sort of, I don't know what that is, this little bit of building sticking out like that. Bit of that. And, you know, tiny bit of this stuff on the side. I like to swap to a smaller flat brush too. I've got this little flat brush. And that just allows me also to get in some little shadows in the windows and things. Might be a bit here. or even this small round brush. I find this might work. That, just a bit of that shadow left of the windows here as well. Very light wash of that cooler color, cooler kind of purple color before. Okay. The shrubs as well, we can pop in a little bit of darkness on some of them, on mainly the left-hand sides of these shrubs. Yeah, and I like to just pop in some shadows for them as well. Here. Another thing is we've got this gigantic tree, and this is definitely going to cast some kind of a shadow. So I'm going to loosely sort of paint one in here, coming through, and a bit more neutral tint, changing this up, neutral tint, light catching onto those stairs. And I'm just going to pop some of that in here. Not too dark, a little bit of, to imply a shadow coming in. Tree. Hey. Marty Lyle, hi from Mississippi. Welcome, Marty. Thanks for joining. I think people are having to go to sleep. I've been sitting here for too long painting. Okay. Judy, this great demo. I'm really enjoying it. Well done. Thank you, Diana. Thanks, Diana. Rupa, can't wait to try this. Thank you. And it's all going to be recorded. Really enjoying the demonstration. Fantastic. So, hey, Patricia. Wonderful demo, but my result doesn't look too great. I'll try it again soon. Thanks for all your time and sharing what you know. Can't stay any longer. That's all right, Patricia. Probably getting some rest is more important. I'll try to keep it shorter next time, but thanks so much for joining. And often when you paint something the first time, it's never going to look the way that you anticipate. I think the practice and just getting that brush mileage and mileage on your pen is so important. So well done for completing it and for coming along. And yeah, just give me a yell if you need some help. Just message me if you need some help later with it. Okay. Let's finish this off. I'm going to go ahead and pop in the shadow for this. It's actually darker on top, slightly darker on top for this shade. That. Okay. Neutral tint. I'm going to use some more neutral tint in this area and create a darker shadow here. Just want to experiment with this one a bit. Make the shadow a little darker than the other ones. And this sort of comes down here. That cuts around the shrubs and things down the bottom. Okay. And feel free to leave in little bits of color, little bits of that yellow just poking through. I've got a shrub here, and what I like to do is, that's what I sort of put it next to these stairs so we can get in, a little bit of that shadow maybe implied on the left of those stairs. That, oops, too much, and a tiny bit of shade here on the left. Those shrubs here too. Bit of that, bit of shadow. That. Just putting in some darkness in some areas up here as well. Trees, I think we could do with a little bit of darkness in some areas. So I'm just gonna go in with the brush, this little round brush, scribble in a little bit of this here to imply some leaves and things. That should do the trick. Shadows, let's finish this off here. We've got a bit coming in like that. Bring across. I'm going to get this all in. Just cuts down like that. Okay. Leave a bit of that blue in there as well. Bit more darkness under here to the left. Shrubs and trees as well. Bit of darkness in these shrubs. Ellen, Leon, what's the consistency of the shadow color? Tea-like. So it's yeah, I would say kind of like tea or even coffee colored. The thing is with the darker colors, you know, things like these darker neutral tints, or if you mix up your own darker colors, even a tea-like consistency is going to be a lot darker than a tea-like consistency of cerulean blue. So yellows, some blues, even some reds have a very natural dark tone to it. So you just got to be careful with the shadow color that you're not going to have that pen show through. Okay, trees here on the left. The reference picture, it's actually pretty dark. I'm going to leave in some of that brightness in there though. So just look at that. I'm just dabbling in areas. Bit of that, this other green here, which is what is it? It's just a bit of emerald green. Connecting some of it on to the house as well. Oops, not too close. Just like that. And having it touch the house accomplishes, essentially just makes that shape join on a little bit more. Doesn't look too disjointed, but also brings out the brightness in the house because you've got a dark color next to a lighter color. Yep. A bit more here, actually, a tiny bit more here. Just keep them going forever. More in there. Often it can be hard to tell because your watercolors will dry a lot lighter. Okay, let's have a look what else we need to pop in. I think just a little bit of a shadow here underneath this section, a bit of this, a little bit of a shadow maybe coming across, you know, these stairs and things. Neutral tints. Neutral tints, another color that I use pretty often just to darken up spots here and there. And you know, often what I'll do after is actually go back into it a bit more and tidy things up. Just emphasize some of these perspective lines. Ooh. Like that. Great. Anything else I really need to do? I don't think so. I reckon we're almost done. So what I'll do to finish off, I'm just going to pop in the legs of these figures and get in a really dark shadow. Just a little bit of a indication like that of this person's leg coming up into the body here as well. Yeah. And there's one figure here at the corner like that. Handbag. The hair. The hair for this person. Legs here. And while you're at it, drop in that shadow. So kind of just join up the legs a bit like this and then bring that shadow over to the left-hand side. Tends to do the trick. Go around a bit more. There might be a shadow here, that part, that section here. Pop in a few little birds and things in the sky. A smaller round brush too. Helps to break up the sky and just join things up. Yeah, like you have any area that's really sort of completely flat. I just like to add something in it to bring everything together. So even the ground, these little perspective lines, little bits of little marks and things like that, joins things up. Okay. A bit of red for the faces of these figures. That. Just go through the comments real quickly. Jeez, there's lots of comments. Connie, thank you. I really enjoyed this class. Thanks, Connie. Trisha Stratton, thanks for being such a good sport. If my giving you a hard time, no, that's you know, that's to be expected. Kathleen, great fun. My first attempt, I'm happy with it. Fantastic. And you know, please post it in the group. I would really love to see what you guys have come up with. And you know, I really appreciate any kind of feedback. I mean, even if it's even if it's constructive feedback from you guys and how I can improve. You know, whether there's some areas, things that I could talk about a bit more, just to help you to learn. Just let me know, because I won't be able to know how to improve unless you guys tell me what I've been covering, whether it's helpful or not. So I'd never get offended, anything like that. Really appreciate you all being here and spending your time in midnight. Looks like for most of you guys. Almost midnight Canada, but hang in there. Thanks, Angela. Jen, fantastic demo. Marbo, thank you. You're welcome. Shannon, thanks for your time and knowledge. This has always helped me a lot, but I don't always have to be a perfectionist here. And that's the thing. And not to say that if if you're very particular in your drawing, that's it's just different ways people have of approaching the art. There's no right and wrong. In terms of art, it's not like it's not like science or anything like that. The things, these techniques, though, principles of tone, drawing, I think those things help you out in any sort of drawing or painting. Really enjoyed your demo. I'm nearing retirement and will be starting to paint for the first time in 11 years. I love seeing it done on video. Thank you so much. And that's from 𝗪𝗙𝗏𝗡. Thanks so much, Charla, for the kind words. Really helps motivate me to continue doing these. I remember a time I would when I was first starting out doing these, just so nervous and I was just so nervous, and there's no one watching, and really appreciate everyone being here, and I really want to make this worth your time, because I know you're here in the middle of the night watching, so I really want to make this worth your time. So any kind of feedback, anything that I can help out with, just let me know. Carla Young, thank you so much. I will be back. I needed this to get back to my painting. Bless you. Thanks, Carla. Sorry, Carol. Angela, thank you. It was great. Appreciate it. Lindsay Wagner, do you do classes in Melbourne? I've been looking at organising some group classes. It's because we just keep going in and out of lockdown. It's quite frustrating, and I haven't really, I do have some class plans. So when we're out of lockdown again, I'm hoping to book a room somewhere. So you just drop me a message, Lindsay. I do also one-on-one classes. I don't do too many of them because Yeah, I just find that I tend to get pretty busy making some of these online classes as well. But yeah, just drop me a message, and I'm always happy to help out. Even if you want me to have a look at one of your paintings or something, just message it through, and I'll try to give you some tips. I'm always a bit funny when giving advice and things to people. I tend not to be give too much advice unless people request it. People paint for different reasons. Some people, they don't really bother whether they improve or not, which is completely fine. For a lot of people, it's just a stress relief thing, or it's just fun, something to do. So if you really, yeah, if you do want some feedback on your work, some constructive feedback, just yeah, let me know, and I'm always happy to let you know my thoughts. Love your loose hand. Thanks, Ella. Was great fun drawing and painting along. Thanks, Yves, and appreciate you being here and painting along. Thanks so much for your time. Enjoying it very much. Thanks, Sui. A whole bunch of comments in YouTube as well. There's a question. Helen, can I use Payne's Grey instead of neutral tint? Yeah, completely. Yeah. So Payne's Grey, if I'm not mistaken, has a slight cool bias, which actually would be good for this because we've got all these warmer colors for the buildings, and if you've got a cool sort of color for the shadows, that tends to work quite well. So I think color is less important than the actual tone. So think of color as cool and warm, and tone sort of just light and dark. If you've got those contrasts, it's always your painting's always going to look interesting. You have to have a combination of tones. I've got these lighter tones here. These shadows are kind of like half tones, or I think they're about half tones, and then the legs of these figures are full tones. Bits of the tree, they're full tones here as well. So actually later when I go through the painting, I'll probably darken up some other areas, create more contrast um, in it as well. So super important. Um, Looking for any other questions. Do you have online classes from Angela Barbetta? I would be interested. Yeah, so I do have, I teach in a few places. You can just go to watercolormentor.com, and that's where I basically, you can go into learn, and then there's a bunch of classes as well as a whole bunch of free tutorials that I put up. I do write some articles here and there as well, but I do make classes. I have a class actually on how to paint, draw and paint house and building landscapes. So it's sort of a very similar theme to what we've done here. Sticks in there. So just yeah, you can take a look at it or message me if you want to know a little bit more. Chiok, thank you for your time and effort. It was truly a free painting sketching on the spot. Painting on the spot. Thank you, Chiok. Thanks for attending. Had a good chat with you the other day, and happy that you're sort of starting to follow your passion in learning to paint, and got a really good background as well in painting. So just see. Thank you for the session. It's beautiful. Thanks. Just see Angela. Fantastic. Yeah, just message me, guys, if you want to know a bit more about the classes, because I teach on a few different places. You might already be part of Skillshare and stuff like that, so you can view some of my classes. Um, Fantastic. Marty, just subscribe to your channel. Thanks, Marty. Yvonne Ulmer, Michigan here. Fantastic. There's so many people from all around the world. And yeah, appreciate the kind words, Marty. And guys, if you want me to go through a particular subject or have ideas for what you want me to paint and draw for the next one, just let me know. Just let me know, and I'll definitely keep that in mind. So finish this off now, and like I said, yeah, post your paintings in the group. There's a group on Facebook, Watercolor Beginners. There's also the Watercolor Mentor Facebook page. You can go and check out. I post a lot of material in there, a lot of reviews, paintings, and just all kinds of stuff. So appreciate your time, everyone, and I'll see you next time.